Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to the Conscience Podcast. This is episode number 1 with your host Ahmed Musattat, and today's guest is Ryan. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So, yes, my name is Rayyan Khan. I am a second year Cegep student at Dawson College in downtown Montreal. And I am the vice president of the Muslim Student Association at Dawson.
Oh, it was a very nice introduction, Ryan. So, how can you describe your CEGEP experience until now at Dawson? I'm going to be joining you next
Yeah.
semester, inshallah.
Inshallah. So, basically, okay, so you're going to be joining me. So, you're finishing basically your second year 5, you're going to be joining me soon. So, I have to tell you that Dawson, it's a really great place. Alhamdulillah. I really love Dawson for a few. I mean, a lot of people, they say certain things about Dawson, and oh, it's really big. Oh, there's so many people. Oh, I don't like the teachers. Whatever. You'll always hear people talking about those kind of things. But I really love Dawson because of the Muslim community that we have. So we have actually a really great Muslim community and like a really big community as well. On like correct, you know, no weird stuff. We have really great brothers and sisters and everything. Everybody's really friendly with each other and very inviting. And also not only talking about the Islamic kind of aspect of Dawson, but also we have lots of extracurricular activities to do. So like I was very happy when I came to Dawson. Genuinely, wallahi, I was so happy. I came and I just saw so many activities that we could do. Like we have a robotics team, we have activities you can do with NASA, and we have seriously, and we have activities that you can do with like doctors and neuroscientists, etc. In general, Dawson is just a really great place, and I'm sure you're gonna enjoy it. I'm sure anybody else who really joins, this great team of Dawson students, they're gonna enjoy it as well. And I'm talking really specifically from the science program perspective, but in general, Dawson is really a great
So,
place.
does it really deserve the position of the top CEGEP in Quebec, in your opinion?
It really well. I don't know. Is it really the top CW?
For enriched science, for people wanting to go to medicine, it's Dawson and Maranapolis.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, that is true.
Exclusively.
Yeah, yeah. Because I forgot to mention maybe, but I'm in the Enriched Science program at Dawson, and so basically we have one among the best students in the province. Actually, if there are students getting to medicine, a lot of times they're from our groups in Enriched. So yeah, we really are at the top, and Dawson really does deserve that place, especially for the science program, I must say. So yeah.
Allah Mabarak. Well, we all know that CEGEP is going to be quite a different institution from high school. For example, it's much bigger. You have a
Yeah,
lot more liberty, and with that liberty, you have a lot more responsibilities as well.
definitely.
Um, how can you describe the transition from high school and CEGEP in the positive aspects and the negative aspects, of course?
I'm really glad you asked me this because actually not too long ago, I actually did a presentation for some of my old classmates about this exact question. So I'm very happy you asked me this. Um, so some of the things, let's say some of the hardships, let's say that some students in general they go through when they're going from high school to CEGEP, especially to a huge institution like Dawson, is that you won't get the necessary. Sometimes you might feel like you're not getting the attention you are getting from the you won't be getting the attention from professors that you might have been used to in high school, because in high school you don't have that many professors and whatnot. But in CEGEP, you have like lots and lots and lots of professors that they won't necessarily remember you unless you show implication in your classes and whatnot. So that's like one thing that kind of changes. Teachers won't necessarily remember you unless you're really great of a student, or unless you're very like special in some sort of way, I guess.
Mhm.
But in general, I mean, if you just work very hard and you ask a lot of like great questions in class, and you're showing that you're very interested, teachers will especially what's the word I'm looking for, appreciate you. So that's just one thing, I guess. Another thing is actually that I found different between CJEP and high school is that these schedules are very different. And so I don't know how it was for you in your experiences pre CJEP, like up until now. But in our schedules in high school, for example, we had very strict schedules where we had a specific time for, you know, lunch, or, specific breaks, 15-minute breaks and whatnot. In CJEP, it's very different because you can have a 1 hour break, or you can have a 4 hour break between classes, or you can have no classes at all in a day. Well, that's more rare usually. And the schedules are just very, very different. You have to be, as you said earlier, you're becoming an adult as you're coming to CJEP. and you have to be a lot more responsible with your time. And that kind of difference in the schedule makes it a little hard because your schedule is like very different every single day. That can happen.
Yeah, it's
That's
customizable in a certain way because you're
in
starting
some most
classes. Yeah.
Cegeps. In most Cegeps, it is customizable.
Okay.
In some Cegeps, like for example, Cegep André Rando, where I'm kind of from, it's not customizable. But in Dawson, alhamdulillah, it's customizable.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, you can choose your teachers. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Except if you're enriched. Can't.
Oh, enriched? No, no, you can
Concentrated.
no. You actually can choose your classes, except you can't like change orders of your classes.
Okay.
So, like for example, if I was in regular science, I could choose general chemistry, mechanics, and calculus for my first semester, or I could take some other classes if I really wanted to. Maybe I'm not sure. But in like if you're in enriched, you have to take the specific classes for your semester. Like I can't take linear algebra in my third if I'm supposed to take it in my fourth. If you're in enriched, you can't switch it like that.
Mhm.
That's like the kind of one of like I would say maybe the only downside of enriched because enriched is really great, but I can talk more about that later. But anyway, that's pretty much it.
So let's get to the dangers really of Cegep.
Yeah.
When talking about
From the Islamic point of view.
Yeah, from Islamic point of view, we all know that with the more liberty that you have in Cegep, there's greater chances of doing. Well, let's say not very good things.
No, not very halal things.
Yeah, not very halal things.
Sure,
exactly. So, what are the dangers, in your opinion, for especially for let's say people of our age, because you know you're in quite an interesting period of time.
Yeah, it is really, yeah. So, okay, so this is a really great point that you bring up. So, as Muslims, we put ourselves to such a high expectation for certain things. We don't, we don't indulge in, let's say, intoxicants. We don't do these kind. We don't like do extreme free mixing and all these kind of things. Whilst other college students they are doing that a lot, and so this is basically where the fitna of college kind of comes in because you have so many influences coming in, but like these kinds of things, you're not supposed to do them, but it's just everywhere. As a Muslim, you're not supposed to do these things, but it's everywhere in your environment. So what I kind of have, you know what? Actually, I'll mention this as well. The fitna in college, it's gonna happen anywhere around the world, wherever you are in a college institution. You will often hear about students going to college and going off to college parties and whatever. I'm sure you've heard of that.
Yeah, of course.
The American stereotype of going to college and
Yeah,
going to college party,
fraternities and
the
sororities and
fraternities
stuff,
and
yeah.
whatnot. Yeah, that's a really big stereotype, I guess, that you could say about colleges. But CEGEP, because of the fact that we have some CEGEPs in Montreal that are just like really, really huge institutions such as Dawson College or Vanier College or Maisonneuve or whatever, these CEGEPs are really big and there's a lot of people, and therefore there's more fitna actually. And so because of the fact that it's like just there's so much more fitna that you would have maybe seen in high school, it becomes a lot harder to deal with it. And I essentially brought today with for this conversation of ours, I brought 5 really great tips that we can that I can share with the our audience today to really help with the fitna. So I would be glad to share it with you today. And actually, that's what I'm going to do right now. So basically, the number one thing I would say to avoid the big dangers of fitna is to understand in college at least is to understand that you have to have the correct social group. So I'm sure that in high school you had your bad people and you had the people like doing like really bad things, not paying attention in class, doing intoxicants at such young ages and whatever. And then you had the people who were like, oh, they study well. Oh, they some like if you're looking for Muslim friends, oh, they're Muslim, well, they're practicing and whatnot. I'll go with them instead. So it was like you always kind of want to do that in wherever you are. But in high school, sorry, in CDEP, it becomes a little harder because there's just so many people, so many more people, and it's harder to find them sometimes. So what I say is you need to look really hard for them. And alhamdulillah, at Dawson becomes really easy because we actually have a Muslim Student Association at Dawson.
Yeah.
So yeah, alhamdulillah, we have that. So you can okay, I'll talk about that in a second. But essentially, um, the big thing you need to do is you need to find the correct social group in your college. You need to involve yourself with the MSA of your college, with the Muslim Student Association. That's a really great thing. Inshallah, I hope there is like Muslim student associations in most colleges. I don't know really. Some colleges there aren't, I think, right?
In all English colleges, I believe that we
Dawson,
do have
Vanier.
Dawson, Vanier, and Marinapolis.
Champlain as well.
Champlain as well. In French, however,
It's a lot less.
It's a lot less. They are usually more strict in what concerns committees and prayer rooms and such.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is true that we need to implicate ourselves with the MSA. And speaking of large numbers, Cegep, Dawson is the biggest Cegep
Oh
in
yeah, I
Quebec. Yeah.
totally forgot to mention that Dawson. I think it is the largest. I'm gonna just say this. You know what? Somebody has to confirm me on this, but I'm pretty sure Dawson is like the largest
Oh,
CDEP
it is.
institution. It
It
is.
is. The
Yeah,
number of students, it is.
definitely. I remember when I came from high school, we had like I want to say maximum 800 students from my excuse me from my high school, and at Dawson we're like I don't even want to give a number. I have no idea.
I believe it's around 16 to 14,000.
Wow,
Yeah,
really?
really. Yeah. Day and evening students.
Somebody has to check that out. I really don't know. But anyway, we are a huge institution, the hugest, and yeah, it's true. Dawson really is like super big and like so many floors as well. It's just really sometimes it's a little hard to like not get lost, but you
I
get
did
used to it
get
anyway
lost
eventually.
today for an hour and a half trying
Yeah.
to find the.
Oh, you got lost today.
Oh, yeah. The.
Oh, the prayer room.
Yeah, and just to go to the garden, for example, I had to take a few doors before actually going to Google Maps and trying to find.
Okay, I see.
When you have to go to use Google Maps to find your way into Cegep, I believe that it's it's a bit confusing as a well a building, I
Okay, I
guess.
see. Well, I must say, yeah, I remember I got quite lost actually. You know, before I even continue on to my next points, just quickly, like a small anecdote. I remember on our first day when me and my friends we got to Dawson, and like we just like we were supposed to wait somewhere for somebody to come get us for like to give us a tour, but we ended up like seeing another line of students just waiting, and they were like going somewhere. We had no idea what was going on. It was we had no idea, absolutely had no idea what was going on, and we just like we were like, okay, let's just wait with them, I guess. Let's wait with these students who are in line over here on this side. And it turns out that we actually missed our person who was supposed to give us a tour because we accidentally went with like the wrong people. So and then we went like super far somewhere else. Because Dawson is just such a huge place. So look, when you're like it's you're not even fully a Dawson student yet, and you got lost. So that's completely fine. You still might get a little lost sometimes, but you're gonna get used to it for sure. I mean,
Inshallah.
inshallah. I mean, Dawson is just huge, but you know it has its benefits to that as well. But anyway, so anyway, going back to what I was saying about having the correct social group, you want to find the people who are really correct. In their practice, they're not like doing they're not being hypocritical in their beliefs. I guess let's say for example, or they're not like being really rude. These kind of things. They have the correct Islamic etiquette, for example.
Values, yeah.
Yeah, value. That's what I was looking for. So you want to really find those kind of people to hang around in college, and it might be a little hard to find sometimes, depending on your college, because obviously not everybody watching this is from Dawson. But um, you know, uh, no matter what, just first go find the MSA of your college, right? Go find the MSA of your college, and if there isn't one, find the Muslim friends. You can find them online. I'm sure you can find something online, but try to stick to them.
Wherever you go, you're gonna find Muslim students necessarily, and then you can just organize.
Yeah,
Once you organize the prayers together, it should be easy enough to to create a
to
committee.
create a committee, which is kind of what you did in your high school, right?
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. So yeah, that's basically that's another great thing. You can also find if you don't have a Muslim student association in your college, which Dawson didn't always have, by the way. You can find the right students to who are really uh, who have that energy to do that,
Mhm.
and who are really willing to do that, and then you could open that as well by yourself. Anyway, so all in all, that being said, find the correct social group, to hang around in college with, because they can especially detect like that can also decide your future as well, because it is often in college that you find the people who you're going to hang out with for the rest of maybe your work career or something. So you really need to find the right people in college. Number two, actually, I would say it's to involve yourself in the right activities. So you need to find the right people, and you also need to find the right activities. Again, the MSA is like the perfect place to do that. The reasons as to why that is because basically assuming that I mean, us at alhamdulillah, us at Dawson College, we have a Muslim Student Association, which is basically um, the people who are in authority in our MSA. We have the correct, or at least we claim to have like the correct kind of like aqidah, let's say, whatever and whatnot, and we prevent like a lot of free mixing and whatnot. A lot of MSAs, they don't do that,
Mhm.
unfortunately, but we do that. And so that's why we encourage a lot of the Muslims who are maybe not even part of the MSA. We encourage them to come to our activities because we're following the proper etiquettes, and that's actually a really important thing to avoid fitna. Because if you're going to do these activities that, let's say, are involved with the MSA and they're not free mixed and whatnot, these kind of activities are really great for avoiding fitna, because you're like getting distracted from other things. So, for example, you could decide to go to a game night with the brothers from an MSA, for example. like the Muslim brothers, let's say, or you could go to a party downtown in like somebody's like a kind of like a fraternity party, let's say, for
Yeah.
example. You could decide between doing one of those or going to like one of these like parties that like they throw a lot in Montreal. You know, do what's right. So go to the right activities. Now the thing is that first, maybe you don't have an MSA in your school. Second, maybe your MSA doesn't hold activities. So what else can you do for the right activities? Okay, so basically, you can involve yourself in beneficial activities such as, let's say you're a science student, and I'm principally gonna talk from the science student perspective since I am a science student. There are so many beneficial activities that we have from the science program, such as we have we have neuroscience projects. Like for example, some of our friends they did a project not too long ago on on different types of cancers and whatnot. And like you can do like robotics. You can join the robotics team. You can join the I don't know. There's just so many teams you can join that are really beneficial and like they can really help you with your career as well. These kind of things you also want to do them even if they're not like entirely Islamic, they are better than going to doing bad activities, which
Exactly.
is one of the points I'm going to mention later on, actually. So involve yourself in the right activities. Make sure you don't go into like the wrong kind of things with the wrong people, which is kind of going back to my first point as
So,
well.
and even if you're not, for example, in a large Cegep like Dawson,
Hmm.
for example, I know that most of my friends in Saint Laurent, for example, are going to Bois de Boulogne. You know Bois de Boulogne,
I do, yeah.
one of the biggest
Of course, yeah.
French public
Yeah,
schools.
sure, sure.
All of the Cegeps have clubs. It's a known fact at this point. What you can do is you can try, I guess, to try to discover a bit what clubs do they offer, what extracurriculars we offer in the CGEP,
Yeah.
and try to get yourself interested. That's how I found the MSA.
Yeah, that's
It's not
actually great. Yeah, your story is great. How you found the MSA. Actually, you know what? This is because a lot of students, what they actually do, kind of going away from the point that I was making about fitna. I'm just gonna make this very quick point. A lot of students they actually don't involve themselves in any kind of activities, whether they're good or bad. That in and of itself is not really good as well. Because, for example, I know people who wanted to do absolutely nothing in CJEP other than to study 24/7, and that is not. This is like an inevitable path down to the doom of burnout, which is like the like if I had like some sort of ominous sound effect, I would play it right now because burnout is just such like a bad thing. You have no idea. I'm gonna talk about that maybe later on because I experienced it myself a lot. But burnout is like something that is really really bad for your career in CJEP and whatnot later on as well, and that can happen if you don't do any activities in CJEP.
true.
So whether it's like MSA activities or whether it's science activities or whatever kind of activity it is, as long as it's beneficial, do it and make sure you're interested in it as well. I mean, don't do it just for the CV, right? Don't do it just so that people can say, "Oh, he was the president of this club and whatever and
It's
whatnot."
Ria at this point, right?
Sorry.
It's Ria
Yeah,
at
it
this point,
is
yeah.
just showing off at that point. So don't do that, but make sure you do activities that you really like because or else you're gonna get burned out just by doing constant working and nothing else. So that's definitely another point. Yeah. So that was the second point basically I wanted to make about avoiding fitna. It's like to put yourself in activities to avoid to not get distracted by other things. Another thing actually is now I'm gonna really dive into the problem of free mixing. So excuse me. So basically, in high school, whatever academic institution you are in, like let's say North America, there is like obviously free mixing and whatever it is. It is what it is. We have to live with it. It is just like that. The thing is that when you come to such a big institution like Dawson, and this is I'm going back to the point of like Dawson being such a huge institution, but there is like just so many people and so much opportunity to free mix. It's like it becomes almost inevitable sometimes. And like I'm going to give an anecdote. Like for example, I remember once I had a lab partner who was of the opposite gender, and I had to free mix a lot and like with other people and whatnot. And like eventually, like this lab partner of mine tried to like get closer and closer to me, but then eventually I just had to say no. I'm sorry. We have to keep our relationship really professional because I'm a Muslim and this is very important to me. And this is not like a uncommon thing that you should have to do. Oftentimes, people will try to like free mix with you, and especially since like for example at Dawson because it's such a huge place. So people, that will happen. Another thing actually is that because of the fact that Dawson is so large, I know I keep saying this, but because of the fact that Dawson is so large, it's like you will have almost no choice to do that. Even if you participate in like activities that are really beneficial, most of the time you're gonna have to do that. And what I have to say to the people who are thinking about doing some sort of like activities like where you have to free mix, keep it professional. Don't keep it professional. Don't like indulge yourself into weird like don't go and try, like the stereotypical guy who like just tries to get every single
The womanizer.
the womanizer. Yes, that's a perfect word I was looking for. That guy who's like the woman, just tries to act like a womanizer, just tries to get every single and all this and that, and it's a very like toxic kind of behavior. Avoid this kind of thing. Be very professional, and this is how you gain respect as well.
Yeah, true.
It's like you get, and I'm gonna get to that point actually in a second, but having the correct etiquette, like the Muslim etiquette, is super important. And one of the parts of that kind of etiquette of being a Muslim is to be very professional with the opposite gender.
True. And it is a sign of masculinity in a certain way, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I can relate to you in a certain sense because even, for example, in my school, I did all throughout the year, my lab partner was female.
Okay.
Well, when I'm trying to gain the best academic position, for example, I'm not gonna choose my friends even though they're male. I'm gonna try to get what would lead me to the best academic result,
Okay,
right?
sure.
So if, for example, I see that my chemistry with a certain lab partner is really great and she's a female, if you keep it professional, it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But just keep it professional. Don't get too close. Don't start joking around.
Oh, you can come over to my house to study if you
Yeah,
want.
yeah, we
No,
want to
no,
study, yeah,
no,
no, no.
no, no.
Yeah,
Don't do that. Obviously.
that's
Yeah.
haram riz.
Yeah. So yeah, of course, harmless. That's funny. Yeah. So obviously, I think you understood fully what I'm trying to say. That's great. Anyway, that's basically it. That's the problem with free mixing. That it should be super avoided, because if you don't, you're gonna fall into this huge, big snowball of just it's like this big issue of like, oh, you can't stop free mixing, and like if you try to stop free mixing, it just like leaves you empty inside because you're so used to doing it. So from the beginning, do not do it. Stay steadfast in your belief and just don't, stay correct in what you're doing. Don't free mix. That's basically what I'm saying. And if you do, well, if you have to keep it really professional, that's basically the kind of advice I have to say for college. So that was my third. That was my third point basically. Number four. Number four of these five essential tips that I have to say for you, you and our audience, is that, as I mentioned before, you as a Muslim student need to understand what is the proper character that you need to have as a Muslim. So basically, as Muslims, we have very specific things that we do. We are we're polite with people. We don't free mix that much. If we do, we keep it professional. All these kind of things. The reason as to why we do all of these things from the beginning is because we want to be the best Muslim ambassadors that we can for our deen, to the others, right? So that's why we kind of do all of this, and also because it's for the sake of Allah. But see, the thing is that doing that is actually really good for just avoiding fitna in and of itself as well. Inherently, just having the proper etiquette of a Muslim includes, staying away from the things that can cause fitna. So, for example, this is actually going back to the point of free mixing. The etiquette of a Muslim is to be like professional, let's say, with the opposite gender, right? Right. So the thing is that you have that proper etiquette as like a Muslim, and you avoid like being super jokey with, like, let's say, the opposite gender, like making a lot of jokes and like being very comfortable, like too comfortable. This makes you avoid fitna, and this is inherently a characteristic of a proper Muslim. So you need to have these characteristics of like these proper etiquettes as a Muslim to avoid fitna. And that's just one point that I made about free mixing. I mean, there's so many more things I can say. Like, what else can I say? Like, having the proper etiquette as a Muslim. How else do you think it could avoid fitna?
It's really, once you set yourself a mission, that's what I did in my own case at least, is that you're supposed to be more disciplined than the rest.
Yeah,
and that includes all, on all levels. I believe that you're, as a Muslim, you're in a position that allows you to reach excellence in a way never seen before.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to mention someone who's really well known, Khabib Nurmagomedov, what did Andrew Tate say about him, for example? It's not a surprise that he's the best when everything he does is, train.
Yeah.
Allah, train Allah, train Allah. When your only purpose is to satisfy your Lord, when your only purpose is to do what's right, you're not going to, deviate from the.
And you'll get distracted by things.
You're not going to get distracted. You're going to see the superficial value of these things. And, we're in the age where, for example, many Muslim men are trying to seek marriage.
Yeah, of course.
If you're ready, go for it in halal way. And you're going to get a good result, inshallah. But once you think about it, many of the relations which you may form in Cegep are not going to be
that kind of beneficial,
long-lasting or beneficial. No.
Yeah, for sure. That's a really great point you bring up actually about discipline. one of the things about being a Muslim is that we're trained to be disciplined because we wake up in the morning super early
Fajr, yeah.
sometimes for Fajr, then we go Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha. No matter where you are, you have to, like, let's say you're in the road walking and you have to, like, it's about, like, you have to pray right there. Well, you find a spot and you do it. Excuse me. And you don't go and bother people. Obviously, you don't like find yourself like to you don't pray in a place where it's like bothering people walking by or
Not
something.
in the middle of the road, yeah.
Obviously, yeah. But you have to find a place wherever you are. You have to find a place to do it, right? And so that's like kind of like being disciplined as a Muslim, and that also really applies to school. Actually, this is a really great point for me to. This is like a really great place for me to mention this. Um, Me, I used to not be very, very practicing as a Muslim when I was like in secondary one, two, three, before secondary four at least, basically. And I had like horrible grades. I was like not the best. I hated school so much. Wallahi, I thought I was going to the NBA. I swear to God, I literally thought I was going to become like a professional basketball player, or like a professional badminton player, or like a professional soccer player.
Everyone at a certain point in their lives
Especially
thought
every
that.
brown guy like me. Every brown guy goes through this phase of thinking they're like the best athlete in the world, or like they have the chance to become an athlete. Anyway, I kind of got past that. Like anyway, for like XYZ reasons, I'm not that tall, so I can't do basketball.
I-
Anyway, listen. So basically, I basically became like a little more practicing around secondary four, and then like I started like building that discipline as well, and that helped me so much in school, also finding the right Muslim friends. That this helped me so much in school that like just becoming a better Muslim, more disciplined Muslim, having the proper etiquette as a Muslim, which is basically going back to the point I'm trying to make. Having the proper etiquette and the character of a Muslim helped me a lot in school. I ended up like getting the best grades of my program at some point because I was just like I was so much more humble and disciplined and hardworking because of the fact that Islam, like Allah gave this to me because I was starting to follow Islam more. So basically, this is all like I'm trying to bring it back to the point I was trying to make, that when you're being more disciplined, you get distracted less from things. Thus, you get less involved in the things that are like related to fitna and whatnot, and you become a better person in general, a better student and whatnot. So it's just all over, or like all around. You need to become more. Let's say you need to become more
Practicing.
practice. Well, also what I'm trying to say is that you need to like embody more that spirit of like being a practicing Muslim, and
So
people
just
know that you're a Muslim.
follow the example of the Sahaba and
Yeah, and the
the
Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, these kind of
Sallallahu Alaihi
things. You need to like follow these kind of things so you can be a really disciplined Muslim and avoid the fitna. That's
Wasallam.
basically the point I was trying to make this whole time. Yeah, so that's basically the fourth point.
I mean, once you have an objective, well, if your objective, for example, when being a Muslim, if your intention is to really help the Muslim community, for example, if your objective is to go back, for example, to the Muslim homeland and try to fix the numerous
Sure.
problems we
Problems.
have over there, you're certainly going to be more disciplined than the rest because most of people, I don't know if you can confirm that or not, are working only for money.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of
They
course.
don't care
Yeah,
about anything else.
definitely. Yeah. So that's true. Um, well, yeah, I totally agree with that. So basically, I'm gonna go to the last point that I'm trying to make essentially here. Um, Basically, the last thing that I can really say about trying to avoid fitna is that you need to. I was basically talking about this earlier, but I'll just make it as a big point right now. You need to avoid the wrong activities. So basically, earlier I was talking about you need to go into the good activities and not go into like the activities where like you're going to like these fraternity kind of parties and whatnot. But I'm just gonna make a big point about this. Going into those things, when you indulge yourself in these kind of lifestyles, which happens a lot at Dawson, by the way. It happens a lot, unfortunately, because a lot of most of the students there, they're non-Muslim, whatever. It's a fact. And so basically, it's downtown Montreal. It's really easy to find parties everywhere.
Yeah, true.
So when you indulge yourself in these kind of things, it is actually really hard to get out, because a lot of people, they indulge themselves in these things, and then even after CDEP ends, they go to these college parties trying to fill that void that is just left in them.
I'm still young. I'm
Like,
still
well,
young.
yeah, exactly. Like, you're out of CDEP. Get out of here. So like they go back to these college parties and like trying to fill that void. Like you like make it a part of yourself to be so like an obsessed, like 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 even like, I don't know. You're just trying to you just become so obsessed with that hedonistic. That's the word I was looking
Yeah,
for.
it's true.
You're becoming so obsessed with that hedonistic kind of lifestyle, and it's really hard to get out of it because you just love pleasure so much, and you're looking for happiness all the time. And something bad happens in your life, you're like, okay, you know what? Maybe I'll go to a party and it'll fix me. So these kind of things, this is a huge fitna, by the way, going to a party. Obviously, I think that goes without being said. It's a huge fitna. So just from the beginning, avoiding these things, just from the beginning, even not saying like, oh, you know what, I'll go once just to see how it is, or oh, I'll go and get my friend out of there. Like let's say
Oh
you have a
yeah.
Muslim friend, you're going there. That's cliche. Like you're a Muslim and you're like, oh, I have a Muslim friend that's going to this party. I'll just go there and I'll bring them out. No, you won't.
Or
You're
I'll
gonna
go
go
there
there.
and not drink, or
No,
I'll go there and just sit in the
I'll
corner
try
to
to guide them.
socialize.
I'll
Yeah.
try to guide them or whatever. No, you're not. You're gonna do whatever they're doing. It's for sure. So obviously, don't go to those places from the beginning, because or else you're gonna get so attached and you can't get out of it anymore. It's like a spiraling, like just like a hole of doom, or you're just spiraling into like just being I don't know, unsuccessful in life basically.
Yeah, it's the opposite of what we would consider high value for an individual, at least.
Yeah, no matter if you're Muslim or not, actually, even if we're not talking about like this from the Islamic perspective, being a high value person, I've never seen like a really really high value person who spends like way too much. Because a lot of people like they were very hardworking and okay, they go to parties, but okay, they're not Muslim. I don't know. That's just part of their values. I guess they don't care about that. But a lot of I've never seen like a really hard working person, like a really strong like minded person, or like a really like high value kind of person ever going to like a lot indulging themselves a lot in these kind of activities. Like you won't find them doing like so many bad things. Like even if they're doing some bad things and they're non-Muslim, whatever, you won't see somebody who's like doing a lot of bad things, but they're a high value person. So
I mean,
like,
we can kind of with certain celebrities,
well,
especially
yeah, that's
singers and whatnot, but that really reflect when you think about it, they're not really successful. They don't bring anything to society. We're of course talking about people who are actually having a positive impact on society in one way or another.
yeah. I was talking more specifically about the student, the
Oh
student
yeah,
kind
the
of life
students,
though.
yeah.
For sure, you won't find a high value kind of student who's indulging themselves in a lot of bad things. That's
Mhm.
for sure. It's very rare. I mean, you won't find it. I kind of exaggerate. I mean, you won't find them a lot. That's like they're super rare.
And
So
even if you do find them, do you believe that they're going to be like
correct
able to
later on.
balance themselves between the two
No,
lifestyles? No,
no, of
they're going to
course
fall.
not. No, because anybody who has like a success in whatever they're doing, they have like great lifestyles. You'll find that often, and people do now. It's like we're in this era of like self help, right?
Mhm.
We're like in the self help kind of era. People are like trying to like find things to help their mental health and whatnot. Going to like these kind of indulging in these hedonistic kind of things, like nobody's gonna recommend that to you. Like, oh, you know what? If you're like feeling down this day, maybe like do this like do this thing, let's say, or do that, or maybe like go to this party or whatever. That's not like a legitimate tip that you would give to somebody to like improve their lifestyle, right?
Sure.
So anyway, I'm kind of straying away from the point, but whether you're a Muslim or not, this is like super important that you don't indulge yourself too much in these kind of wrong activities, because it can just spiral you into like a doom. Like if you're a Muslim, it spirals you into like becoming a worse and worse Muslim. You're straying away from Allah, and that's really bad. And if you're not Muslim, it's just ruining your life. You're just like,
It is part of the aqidah. The more you sin, the more you're going to be, well, the more you're
yeah,
going to deviate from the straight path,
yeah,
the more your
exactly,
iman is going
exactly,
to become weak. The more you do good stuff, the more you're going to be a good person. The more you're going to be disciplined. It's a simple part of the aqidah. It's not surprise that the more you do bad stuff, the more you're going to be, open to doing bad stuff. And then
Def-
it just spirals out of control completely.
definitely, yeah. And like, I guess I'll just end with this. I remember when like I never really indulged myself in really kind of like any bad activities and whatever. But I
Alhamdulillah.
remember I used to be like when I was before even secondary four. I remember when I was like in my, I'll actually just say ninth grade, eighth grade for people who might not know what secondary 4 or 5 is, whatever. Basically when I was like in seventh, eighth grade ish, or sixth grade or whatever, no, seventh, eighth grade, I remember I used to hang around people who were not very studious. They were not practicing at all, like not practicing at all. Even some of my Muslim friends that I used to hang out with, they're not practicing at all. Like, like honestly, they were like doing some pretty bad things, and I used to be therefore a really horrible student and a really horrible Muslim. So the thing is that like when I started practicing more, when I started getting away from them, I realized that like when this is I'm gonna mention this. When I started straying away from the fitna, right? I realized that like I started improving myself so much more. I became such a more high value person, up to the point where like let's say you're like the least okay, let's say you're the least smartest person in a group, and like let's say you're trying to become more studious. Everybody's gonna make fun of you, like, oh, what are you trying to do? Oh, you're not that smart, right?
Yeah.
That happens often, and that kind of happened to me sometimes. Like I remember I was trying to become more practicing and straying away from fitna and whatever. like around the end of the years of my high school like career, and my friends used to make fun of me and be like, "Oh, you're becoming too religious," or "Oh, you're becoming a monk," or whatever.
You're going through
You're
through
going
your
through your
monk
phase.
phase.
You're going through your monk
Through
phase,
monk
as I was
phase.
telling you earlier, actually. You're going through your phase of like being a monk and whatever, or you're being super religious. I'm so excited for you to lead this phase. Well, alhamdulillah, it's been 4 years. I haven't left the phase yet.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. I'm not going back to that ever. That kind of lifestyle
Inshallah.
where like this we're not studying, we're like doing this like listening to music and all of that. These kind of things. These kind of things are just like so useless. And I remember when I basically got away from this fitna, my lifestyle just improved so much. And alhamdulillah, I become a better student and whatnot. I'm sure I think the same thing kind of happened with you probably, right?
Alhamdulillah now. Once I left my homeland, I came here, I truly recognize the value of work, the value of actually defending your identity as well. And like we said, once you start becoming practicing in the proper way,
Yeah.
once you set your intention in the right direction, not raya, not minor shirk, as
Yeah,
we call
exactly.
it, really for you're doing it for the ummah, for the community, for
Yeah.
Allah Azza wa Jal.
Yeah.
Once you try to follow up to the model that Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam
So,
and the Sahaba have set for us, then you should be the most probable person to reach excellence.
excellent. Oh my God, you're so right. Totally forgot to mention this. Thank you for mentioning that. I remember like see, how do I explain this? I remember I started like following like the proper Islamic etiquette at some point. I remember, and then like I started like reading more about the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and like this kind of
Sallallahu
things
Alaihi
that you're supposed to do as a Muslim and whatnot, and that really improved me as well. Like I'm really happy I learned more about Islam at some point. Like if I didn't, like I don't know where I would be right now, honestly. But yeah, for sure. That's
Wasallam.
that's basically what I have to say about that. Um, if you have do you have any extra questions?
Yes.
Okay,
So
just
that's
advice I can give from a CDEP student to you, since
yeah,
you're coming to my college anyway, and for
yeah,
people who
inshallah, and then enriched as well,
yeah
inshallah.
yeah
Well, my question is, and I'm asking you discussion from my experience. Many students, many Muslim students, especially, are going to. That's an unfortunate case, for some reason that we have. Well, since well the deterioration of the Muslim homeland, for example,
okay.
they consider that if you're a practicing Muslim, you shouldn't study, or that it's a waste of time.
What do you mean?
For example, they will. It's rare that you will see someone who's really, really practicing, are really on the good path, and who's the best at the same time in academics,
Oh
which is
yeah, I understand what you
which
mean.
is
Yeah.
weird because if you think about it, our ancestors, for example, were the most practicing.
Yes.
They used to be the ones who pioneered many different domains of science,
Science. Yeah.
algebra,
Medicine.
with al-Khwarizmi, medicine, of course, surgery. Experimental science was created by Ibn al-Haytham. It's
Yes.
a known fact as well.
Yeah. The scientific
S-
method, right? Okay.
exactly the experimental scientific method. So, why is it so? What would you say to the young students of our age who, especially, are going to go to Cegep now? What do you say to them about this? Well, belief that
The stigma.
academics shouldn't really combine with Islam, because if we think about it, a Muslim should be excellent in everything.
Yeah.
He's when you're disciplined, you should have excellence in every single domain.
That's a great point you bring up. I remember I used to think like because like essentially what happened to me, like for example, I'll take my own example from this. When I was in secondary four, I remember I used to like I was starting to become a lot more practicing, right? But the best students in my class were like these non-Muslim just women who like I don't know whatever, these non-Muslims essentially, right?
Mm.
And I remember I was thinking like, oh man, I want to be really like them, or I really want to be like these students in my class. They're so amazing. But then at some point I was like, wait, they're great students, but my beliefs don't necessarily are not really in line with them. So what if I just tried following another model instead? Oh, and then I was like, oh, I should just follow the behaviors of our ancestors, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and the
Sallallahu
Sahaba and
Alaihi Wasallam.
whatnot, and these kind of things. And then I realized that like when you follow the Islamic model, if you really properly follow it, and meaning that you're like, it's inherently part of the Muslim etiquette to be a strong, like, minded person and to be like, really disciplined. These kind of things actually just inherently make you a better student. So as a good Muslim, it is expected for you to be at the top of. Okay, well, I'm not like I don't mean this like don't take a grain of salt with this, but like what I'm about to say, but you should be at the top of whatever you're doing because it's expected of us. We are supposed to be the best at it. And when you're following the Islamic guideline, it is literally showing you how to be the best at it because you're following those who are before you, excuse me, those who were there before you, and they were the best at whatever they were doing. Like for example, you were mentioning the several examples of the scientists and whatnot of of the golden age of Islam, for example. These kind of people, we should follow their example. And so there is no such thing as like, oh, if you're really practicing Muslim, that doesn't, like oftentimes you will see this thing, as you mentioned, we'll see this thing about like how, oh, you're really practicing, but like you give less attention to education because like, oh, you're supposed to be practicing and more care about the like the akhirah instead of the dunya, whatever. No, you can still be you actually should be a really great student if you're trying to be a good Muslim. I mean, I remember when I started like following this, like the model of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and like the Sahaba and like those who came before us. And Al Khawarizmi was my favorite actually because he created like a fun fact actually. Al Khawarizmi created the book Kitab al Jabr, I think, which is where algebra comes from, and Al Khawarizmi is like the
Algorithm.
Latinized algorithm. Yeah. So anyway, so basically, um, just like following that kind of model made me a better student than the girls in my class who I used to like model myself after. I ended up surpassing them actually because after stopped trying to follow them specifically because they were good students only. I followed the like just like better models because they're the Muslim models that we have. So definitely there is no such thing as like, oh, if you're a good practicing Muslim, you're probably not gonna be very good at school. No, that's not necessarily true.
That's a really bad habit,
Yeah.
a really bad idea that many people have, and it's contradictory to everything that we have in our deen.
Yeah.
طلب العلم فريضة, as we say. The seeking of knowledge is obligatory,
Yeah.
and we're supposed to be the best at it. We were the best at it, and
We should be at
we
still,
should
yeah,
be
we should
the
still
best
be.
at it again.
Yeah. Like for example, obviously I'm not like naming his name or anything, but like I have a in my first and second year second semesters at Dawson, I met this really incredible guy, very practicing Muslim. Allah, may Allah reward him for everything he's been doing. Very like smart guy and everything, very humble guy especially. He's like he has a very correct aqidah and everything. He's very cool, right? So basically, this guy he so humble and so helpful. He recently got accepted into the MedP program, which, by the way, only like a few students. Like I'm not gonna name how many, but only a few students from my school got accepted into this, and I personally know one of them, and he happens to be like a really pious Muslim, and I'm so proud of him. Like it just shows that like as Muslims, like we have such high, like we have such great, we can achieve so much great things if you follow properly the correct etiquettes of Islam, right? And like myself, and obviously I'm not trying to boast or anything, but like I remember in secondary five, I won the prize for like the best like grade in chemistry from like my program or something. And like I was just thinking, like Alhamdulillah, this is from Allah, and like I gotta be, I want to be completely humble about this. But at the same time, I'm really proud of showing that a Muslim can do this, like a practicing
Exactly.
Muslim can do
Yes.
this. And like because there weren't many other practicing Muslims in my school, and I was so happy, Alhamdulillah, that I'm an ambassador for Islam right now.
You can consider it as a way,
As
the
dawah.
prize as a way, as a type of reward for your community, for them.
Yeah.
It means that you produced the best in this domain, at least, and it is logical once we look at our ancestors and everything. It's saddening to see that we aren't reaching the same levels of excellence as before. And when talking about MedP, just so you know, MedP is really
Super
hard
to get into. So difficult.
It is my goal, inshallah, to get
Me
into
too.
MedP,
Inshallah.
inshallah. And you still have 1 year
I still have 1 year. Actually, one semester
I have
technically.
2 years. MedP is really hard to get into. It's the
So
McGill medical program into the
it's
preparatory
kind of like an
program.
advanced program essentially to get into medicine like
Into,
earlier.
yeah.
But it is the most competitive thing ever in Canada.
Oh
Sorry,
yeah.
not Canada. Sorry, not Quebec. Quebec. I mean,
It's even no, it's in Canada.
really?
Yes.
I have no idea.
It's more difficult to get into McGill MedP than to get into Toronto, for example.
Really? Okay. Wow. I
Yeah,
had no idea.
McGill is it's top 20 in
The
medicine
world actually.
in the world. Yeah,
Yeah.
so McGill is MedP is
Top level.
you need to be the elite, the creme de la creme
Yeah, exactly.
to go
I like that
into
expression.
MedP, inshallah.
Yeah.
And inshallah,
Inshallah, we're gonna try that.
We'll try
Inshallah.
to sort ourselves in,
Yeah,
inshallah.
and like I'm sure when you're gonna come to Dawson, you're gonna find like a great Muslim community. You're already actually involved, which is really great.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, you're actually like you're already part of the men's committee and everything and whatnot. So it's really great. You're already involved, and I'm really happy that you are because you're already like gonna be interacting with the Muslims like in our circle, and you're gonna have a great. Let me just mention this. I love another reason I love Dawson so much because not only is like the Muslim group that we have, like the Muslim brotherhood that we have, is really great, like in terms of like belief and like we like support each other Islamically. We support each other academically a lot as well, meaning like a lot of our students are at the top level. I have this there's his brother. I'm not gonna mention his name again, but he has like a 37 qatar, which I mean, if you guys know like what a qatar, know what the
Allahumma
qatar kind of
barik.
is, yeah, like Allahumma barik to him. If you guys kind of know what like how the qatar works, 37 is like top level, right? And so like I know a lot of the Muslims I know have like above 36, 37 qatars, and I'm not trying to like put a value on them based on their qatar, but I'm just trying to say that look, we have the
It's
Muslim
correlated.
community. Yeah, there's a correlation. You'll see often that Muslim students who are very serious about Islam often end up doing really great in academics as well, and we have a really great circle for that. So I'm sure you're gonna do amazing.
You do produce math content as well. I know that you're
Yeah, so I
very
do produce
passionate
math
about it.
content as well. I have a YouTube channel called Math Ryan. It's literally MATH like math and then my name. So basically, I do produce some content. I'm hoping to produce more, inshallah. But
Inshallah.
actually, it's really great to mention this. Like, I think we should maybe finish with one of these points. But the thing is that like I became really interested in math as I was becoming more practicing as well in Islam because like I started becoming interested in sciences, and math just happened to be that part of science where I was like, whoa, subhanallah, there's like so many crazy things in this. I'm just gonna say one small thing because about math, because maybe a lot of people, they're not very keen on math, like they don't like math a lot. I'm just gonna mention one small thing about math. There's this equation in mathematics called Euler's identity, and when I saw this, it was like another proof of like, wow, it's like there's no way you could like believe that like this just came out of nowhere. Basically, the Euler's identity uses some of the most important. It's an equation that somehow holds like the most important constants in like math ever. Somehow it just all fits into one equation, and it's just so beautiful how it's e raised to the I pi minus 1 is equal to 0. This equation holds the most important constants you'll ever find in mathematics in one equation. And some people who even found this equation, even like back in the day when they like started seeing this equation, it was like enough evidence of them for the existence of God, actually, because of how beautiful the equation was. And for me, I was like, wow, this, subhanallah, this is like, it's another proof for me.
Does it have a relation as well when talking about beauty in mathematics? You know the golden ratio, for
Of
example.
course I
Yeah,
do. God. Okay. Anyway, I'm not gonna go. Let's not go into
we're
depth
not
with
gonna
that.
have
Yeah.
to
I
mention
could
it on
explain
here.
it, but I'm probably not gonna explain it right now. But yeah, there's so many things in mathematics that just made me like say so many subhanallah moments.
And it is really the beauty of sciences,
Yeah.
the mesmerizing effect it has on you.
Yeah.
Just this domain which you can discover. If you're doing it in the good intention,
Yeah.
you are going to get hasanat for it
Yeah. Of course.
because you are trying to discover what Allah Azza wa Jal has created.
Yeah.
And it is truly what we are supposed to do.
Yeah.
If you look at your ancestors, they did that. They pioneered it. They were the best at it.
Yeah.
And I believe that we all should be at the same level.
And one of the most honorable fields, kind of where you can find them, like that you can find in sciences, is medicine.
Medicine,
So
yeah.
yeah, because you're like it's such the superpower of understanding the human body, and just being able to understand why people are suffering and help them with that. Isn't there like something about like if you save one person is like as if you saved all of humanity, right? That kind of thing. This is like there's like so much value in becoming a physician or a doctor or somebody that helps with health, whether it be physical or mental health or whatever. It's like such a high value thing, not because you get a lot of respect in society, which you inevitably might, or like you might get a lot of money or whatever, but you are helping people understand why they're suffering, helping them cure their suffering in some ways, and understanding the human body if you're like becoming a physician or a surgeon or whatever. This is like the best career in my mind.
It's truly one of the most sublime levels of science, of knowledge.
It's almost
Even
like yeah.
Ibn Taymiyyah, rahmahullah,
Wallah,
Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah,
yeah.
has said the most knowledgeable people in all of society, engineers and
Doctors.
doctors,
And
which is
yeah.
like how many years ago? 700, 800 years
Yeah,
ago?
and
Ibn
it is
Taymiyyah?
still true today. Yeah, and like I don't know exactly who it was who said this, but like something about like the obligation of like in our community to have at least some people who go into medicine, right?
Mhm.
Well, that's a great thing because I actually really appreciate. I actually really want to go into medicine, and so I can contribute to that kind of obligation, right? So I'm really happy I could do that. And you want to really go into medicine too.
Inshallah.
We can
We're very passionate about medicine. McGill, take note.
yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's basically it. That anyway. So kind of concluding what we were talking about today. There's a lot of things that can cause fitna for students and whatnot, but the thing is that, you know, when you're trying to like avoid these kind of things as a Muslim, you really need to make sure that I'm just going to do kind of like a small recap of everything I said. You to avoid the fitna of college, you really need to make sure that you connect with the right social, groups, that you do the right activities, that you kind of do something about that free mixing situation, that you understand the proper etiquette, the characters of a Muslim, and you be a proper ambassador of Islam for the non-Muslims around you, or whatever. And number five, that you stay away from the bad activities, so you don't indulge in them. And like, I mean, you don't indulge in them so that you don't like fall into like some deep hole of like doom. So those are like the five things that you should do to avoid the fitna of college.
Inshallah. May Allah help us all succeed.
I mean,
And inshallah, we'll get into medicine.
inshallah,
Inshallah.
inshallah, yeah.
Well, that was it, my brothers. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.